Welcome back to the Dale Wiley Show. You need to know that if you are going to listen to today's interview, you must not be able to be offended. We have Mojo Nixon, and Mojo Nixon is as colorful a character and as good an interview as there is, but that man can curse. And let me tell you, it is funny, but it has its moments. And so you have a few more seconds to switch it off, and otherwise you are subjecting yourself to Mojo Nixon, the man, the myth, the legend.
Well, I'm lucky to be here this afternoon with Mojo Nixon, the loon in the afternoon, a man that's got more nicknames than anybody I know. And Mojo, tell me how it's going in San Diego.
I'm out here in San Diego where it's 65 degrees and sunny. I'm wearing cut-off shorts and a Modern Drunkard magazine T-shirt. I've been sitting on the couch waiting for you to call, playing my banjo ukulele.
Well, that sounds like a fun day. Sure does. Now, Mojo, I just want to ask you a couple of questions. I've got some fun stuff to talk about, but I wanted to kind of know when you first started, what was the thing that grabbed you musically when you were a kid? What brought you into music?
Well, I don't know if you noticed, my father ran a soul radio station, a black radio station in Danville, Virginia, where I grew up.
Uh-huh.
And as a kid, I loved James Brown and Sam and Dave and Aretha. Arthur Conley songs, sweet soul music, which is just the whole song itself is a blast of exuberance. There was a blast of make a joyful noise unto the Lord. And that's what he did. And there was another song by the Tams, Be Young, Be Foolish, Be Happy. Uh-huh. And I used to play that one over. I remember I just got one of them Beatles box sets for Christmas, and I think the first, I think when the Beatles come out, I was 7 or 8, but the first single I had was Help. And Help is good, but the B-side of Help is a lot better. That's I'm Down. That's Paul pretending to be Little Richard. And if you're going to be if you can't be, who else wanted to be Little Richard is John Fogerty. John Fogerty wanted to be Little Richard, Howlin' Wolf, and, and Buck Owens combined into one. But, yeah, so when I was a kid, I loved music. And I got to know more about music and, because my father ran the radio station. And I was just, and when I was a teenager, I was like just a giant music fan. I never, I'm not a very good singer or songwriter or guitar player, but I am extremely enthusiastic.
Well, you certainly are that. But, you actually, you had a great little musical career that developed out of your personality and being willing to expose the truth behind Debbie Gibson and some other things. And man, in the late 80s to when you were in Missouri, you were one of the forefront punk rockers that there was. That's how you would have been described in my neck of the woods. And tell me a little bit about how you wound up being on MTV and everywhere else in that day.
Well, I'd been in bands. I was in a band in college. And I used to, this is going to be hard for people to believe. I used to race bicycles. I was the state champion bicycle racer for the state of Virginia in 1975. And then I think I raced one more year, but then I realized if I was going to, do more with that, I'd have to quit school and just race by, I could see where the guys that were really good, they were already a lot better than me. So I stopped racing bicycles and I started playing guitar. And the thing was, I got nowhere real fast. Eventually, I was in a band. I was in a band called Godzilla's Revenge, and we did all of Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks. We could play all them songs, and I was kind of, sometimes when people sing Bob Dylan, they kind of tone down the Bob Dylan-ness. I was ramping it up. I sounded like Bob Dylan on acid.
And in a Bob Dylan cover band, that is.
Yeah, we played other songs too, but yeah, our big hit was "Tangled Up in Blue." Yeah, "Tangled Up in Blue." And I was in a kind of hard rock band. I was in a bar band that played Bad Company and Leonard Skinner and Stones and that kind of thing, Aerosmith. But I realized I shouldn't try to be Mick Jagger or even Bruce Springsteen, who I love. I shouldn't try. I should just do what I do best, which is, get a little hillbilly music going, either blues or country. Get a little country music going, and then start ranting and raving like a crazy person. I was somehow trying to combine Hunter S. Thompson and John Lee Hooker. Or Lou, or Lou Reed and Bruce Springsteen. And there's also a little Woody Guthrie. Back to Bob Dylan. There's also a little, Woody Guthrie folk singer, Fight the Man. Because I'm not a liberal. I'm where the anarchists meet the libertarian. If you think of politics not as a line but a circle, I'm where the crazy motherfuckers meet at the back. And right. And so one of the things that was, Richard Pryor is another person I was trying to emulate. I wanted to speak the truth. It was obvious that people were lying. It was obvious that politicians and the government and the church and lots of people and corporations were lying. So, here's this crazy little guy with a guitar and a partner on a washboard, and we're going to speak the truth. Well, I wrote a song, I Hate Banks. I was way ahead of the curve.
You sure were.
Because you ever try to cash a check made out to Mojo Nixon, especially when you look like me? You can't cash. Eventually I had enough money. I had an accountant. He says, "Oh, you have to open an entertainment." Fuck, I didn't know all that. We needed money. People say, "Mojo, you used to be so skinny." I was starving to death. I was living on top ramen.
I was excited. Today I've got such a good lineup of people that we're going to do some shows with. I've got you, and then I'm going to talk to your old friend Kinky after this.
Oh, yes.
Living in High Cotton.
I don't know if you saw, Billy Bob made a movie about Willie called The Boy from Luck. And it never came out, but I don't know if you saw that thing on PBS the other night. But Kinky was fucking eloquent in it. I mean, it was when the Willie Nelson Gershwin Award thing, and they taped it about a month ago in D.C., and they showed it on the PBS here, I think, Monday night. But Willie was at his most eloquent talking about Kinky. And I mean, Kinky was at his most eloquent talking about Willie. It was unbelievable. So I just played a gig with Kinky up in L.A. at McCabe's, and in the middle of the show, he has me come out and sing "Tie My Pecker to My Leg," and Van Dyke Parks was playing piano with me, which I'm pretty sure, he went from Brian Wilson to Mojo Nixon.
I was watching. So anyway, I was watching some things and reading some things. And I just had so much fun watching you talk about vomiting through your nose for a Pogues party and, various different things. And then I sure loved one of the representatives representing the great state of Missouri, Southwest Missouri, in fact, probably Lou Whitney.
Oh, the unfortunately named Gene Dixon. Yes, I remember. Yeah, I was on Crossfire talking about putting labels on records, and it was some deal where Jell-O was supposed to do it, and he hurt his leg or something, and they literally called me that day. They called me like at 9 o'clock in the morning. They said, "Can you be there?" And they said, "We'll send a car." And I said, "Okay," and went up there. And it was odd, I was in L.A. and the other three people were in D.C.
Right.
So, but I could see them, but I couldn't look at them while they were talking because it was out of sync. The satellite, the bounce back was out of whack.
Uh-huh.
And they were Pat Buchanan. At the end, I finally, I got a few punches in, but at first they just jumped all over my shit. Well, here's the thing. Look, what does Frank Sinatra talk about? Drinking, fucking, and smoking. Every Frank, So if you're gonna take everything out of the music, then you got to take it out. Right? What is Hank Williams singing about? What is Jimmy Rogers singing about? What is the first guy? Right? The first caveman in a field The first hunter or gatherer in a field, what is he singing about? He's singing about he wants some poontang. Ain't nothing new. They were just afraid. And this happens all the time. White kids are being led down the road to fornication by the Negroes. What?
Oh, the whole thing was hilarious. Thinking Uncle Dave making all those old records that had the exact same stuff or worse than what they were. Well, now I do enjoy. I don't know what band that was that Jean Dixon was reciting the lyrics of, but that's pretty classic when she's sitting there talking about the dismemberment lyrics.
Oh yeah. It was one of them heavy. It's one of them heavy metal bands. Where no one's gotten laid in a long time. That's why they're singing like that.
Dan Baird said the exact same thing the other day. Well, so you kind of through the late '80s, early '90s, you had some musical success that got you on MTV, and some songs that people probably still remember. Was there some moment there that just kind of you felt like you were on top of the world? I mean, what was that period like?
Well, it was really good. Things. We started out starving, and we're on this tiny little. We weren't even on Enigma. We were on like some subsidiary of Enigma, and first album sold 5,000 copies, maybe, or something. But then, things. We got to open a bunch of shows because we were a duo. That made things a lot easier. We opened a bunch of shows for that's why we opened up for the Pogues, because there was 10 of them, and they didn't want to move all their gear around. And that's why we also opened up for NRBQ all the time, because they were old and angry, old and mean, and they didn't want to sound check or have to redo their stuff. We could set up in front of them. Plus, that also meant we didn't have to pay five. Let's say the average band has 4 people and they got a road manager. Sure. Right, we had one other guy with us. That was it. We didn't have a sound man. We didn't have a light man. We had Bullethead with us, and that was it.
Yeah.
And so financially, we were able to take better gigs and do more stuff, for less money, because we're just dividing the money 3 ways, not 8 ways. Yeah. And I did it kind of went. I had Jesus at McDonald's. That was my first big hit. I saw Jesus at McDonald's at midnight. And then Stuffing Martha's Muffin was number 1 on the college charts. And MTV, the guys that did the promos thought it'd be funny if if the guy, because, it's got this line in it, music television should be covered in jism. They thought it'd be funny if they got that guy to do some promos for MTV. And I remember, and it was this guy, what was the guy's name? One of them was Ted Demme, who later went on to direct some films.
Yeah.
And the other one's name, his name is Mark Pellington. And Mark Pellington and Ted Demme were in the promo department of MTV, and they had this. So I made a big list, all these things I wouldn't do, and I needed money and I needed creative control. They agreed to everything. Shit, I thought I was trying to. And I remember thinking, my logic at the time was, I can sell the same 5,000 records to the same 5,000 people, or maybe a girl in Nebraska will, see me and hear me if I do this. And it turned out to be a good thing to do.
Wow.
And, so then after that, we had Elvis everywhere. And I was it was a time and place thing. The record came out literally the month of the 10th anniversary of Elvis's death. There had been this, everywhere I went, I was feeling this Elvis vibration. I literally said half the lyrics on stage one night at the I-Beam in San Francisco. Luckily, Bullethead wrote a lot of them down. and then we got a little bit more budget. We made a little more. And that record got played a bunch. Yeah. That record got played a bunch. And, it got played on a lot of morning shows, novelty records, funny records, that kind of thing. And then I was able to go to Memphis and hook up with Jim Dickinson.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the top of the heap. So eventually I go to Memphis. I hook up with Jim Dickinson. Eventually I'm in a movie in Memphis. I'm in Great Balls of Fire. I'm the drummer. Right. Dennis Quaid's the piano player. John Doe from X is the bass player. And Jimmy Vaughn's the guitar player. And we played a party. We played a party at Thanksgiving, and everybody got up and sang, one of their songs. And Jerry Lee is there. And I sang Elvis is Everywhere. And Jerry Lee was fucking mad. He's literally motherfucking me from the front row, And so I kind of end the song quickly, and I go in the bathroom, and I'm kind of upset. Sam Phillips comes in the bathroom and goes, "Fuck Jerry Lee. I liked it. That was good. You ought to keep doing that." Sam Phillips, who talked to, Elvis Aaron Presley and Carl Perkins and Johnny Cash and Howlin' fucking Wolf. So I was pretty happy then.
Absolutely. You guys were two birds of a feather. It seems.
Well, it's Sam, man. I don't know how old he was then. That was around 1990 or something. I remember thinking, man, he really is dyeing this beard orange. That's how close I was to him. I could kind of see the orange dye in his beard.
Well, you had so many funny, cool things happen to you, and now you're just. Is there any one channel on XM that you're not appearing on?
Well, yeah, there's quite a few I'm not on, but I'm on Outlaw Country every weekday afternoon. 4 to 8 on the East Coast, 1 to 5 on the West Coast. Then we play hillbilly rock and roll. Me and Jeremy Tepper's the one that runs it. He's an old buddy of mine from New York. I met him through Roscoe, and me and him are we have very similar musical taste, and so if you like what used to be called country rock, you're going to dig Outlaw Country. There's not a lot of places, that play that music, where country and rock and roll comes together. And, and using Jimmy Rogers and Hank Williams and George Jones and, using those guys as a, barometer of what to play and how to play. And right. Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry Lee Lewis, one of the greatest country artists of all time, as is Johnny Cash. And they're both rock and roll artists too. So it's, I call it hillbilly rock and roll. But it don't matter what you call it. And it's got about 10 different inventors. That's fine by me. If you say Graham Parsons invented it, well, then Doug Somm people will come over and, kick your ass. So that's fine by me if it's got 10 different inventors. I agree with Duke Ellington. There's two kinds of music, good music and bad music. And on Outlaw Country, we only play good music. Now, on them other country stations.
Some of those you wouldn't even recognize it, would you?
Well, a lot of it's just it's just Bob Seger or John Fogerty with a fiddle, done poorly. And it's also it's a whole lot. And this is always true. There's always a ton of sentimental crap. Even when James Brown, the Rolling Stones, and the Beatles were 1, 2, and 3, Sergeant Barry Sadler was number 4. Or Lulu or some shit. So there's always a ton of bad music being played, or non-rock and roll music that's being played. Well, look, Adele might be a good singer, but hell, I heard Barbra Streisand. I heard Barbra Streisand the first time. The only thing Barbra Streisand ever did that was any good was the cover of that Laura Nyro song. And so if Adele would do a whole album of Laura Nyro songs, maybe I'd give a shit. And then I'll tell you briefly, I have a political talk show that's on Tuesday nights on Raw Dog 99 on Sirius XM. That one's called Lion Cocksuckers. And during the NASCAR season, I have a show called Manifold Destiny on the NASCAR channel, channel 90. That's on Monday nights at 10 o'clock. So that keeps me pretty busy. And I really me and the Toad Lickers don't play much anymore. I do play with Joey Harris, who was in the Beat Farmers. I play with him here in San Diego. But we play like once or twice a month.
The Beat Farmers were an interesting band to see live. I remember seeing them kind of probably shortly before Country Dick paid his last regards to us all. But, man, they were an interesting band to see.
Well, it was Country Dick was one of the reasons that I was able to become Mojo Nixon. Seeing how he was so committed to Country Dick was committed to the bit in a way that made Andy Kaufman look like a pussy, and so. Right, so I desperately wanted to be in the Beat Farmers. I was hanging around. They had a band before called Country Dick and the Snuggle Bunnies that both Joey and Paul were in and Skid was in, and I was their number one fan. And when the beef farmers were being formed, I begged him. I said, "I'll learn how to play bass," and he goes, "There's only room." He said, "There's only room for one monkey in the band, and I'm it."
Well, you have to be your own monkey, I guess.
Right. So So if you have three lead singers in a band, a lot of arguing. So in the end, it all turned out well. But at the time, I was and I was so upset at the time. I sold all my shit, started hitchhiking across the country. I found myself in Winnemucca. Was it? No, I was in. I'm trying to remember the name. It wasn't Winnemucca. It might have been Winnemucca, Nevada. Hitchhiking on Interstate 80, and I'm out there in the middle of nowhere, and there's nobody coming. I made a sign that said "Salt Lake" or "Dehydrate," and I got picked up like in 5 minutes.
Well, so now tell me this. Tell me about your predictions for the NASCAR year. What's gonna happen there? Are there any more predictions forthcoming after the head shaving?
Yes. I predicted last year that Jeff Gordon, my nemesis, Jeff Gordon's a robot built by Yankees to infiltrate our southern sport. Jeff Gordon wouldn't make the chase, the playoffs in NASCAR, and he almost didn't, but he did. So I had to get my head shaved at the race car track. So I don't have any predictions. I haven't made any NASCAR predictions, but I have made on the political show. I said that Donald Trump will not be the Republican nominee, and if he is, I'll suck his dick. Well, it's even worse. And if he wins the presidency, I'll suck his dick on TV and tickle his balls. Can you put this on the podcast? Are we going to get in trouble?
Well, I'm going to put it on the podcast. I'll just slap 10 different.
Put a couple of X's up. Make it a 2X.
Oh, I'll give all kinds of warnings. That should probably help it get some more attention. Just like.
So wait, now does the podcast have a name?
It's just I call it the Dale Wiley Show right now.
Well, I was thinking, how about Dale's Tales, or Dale's Tales, or Roots Rock Retards. We're retarded for Roots Rock, kind of like that Robbie Folk song, Roots Rock Weirdos. You can call it you can call Robbie. Robbie Folks. I don't know if Robbie Folks said in an article like 5 years ago he didn't want to be known as a Mojo Nixon type, and I talked about his ass on the radio about how his pecker was so small if you ran it up a gnat's ass it looked like a BB in a boxcar. I talked because he didn't want to be known because people equated Robbie Folks with "Fuck This Town" and funny songs, and he wanted to be taken seriously. I, on the other hand, don't ever want to be taken seriously.
Well,
and then I met Robbie. He played at the Mojo thing at South by Southwest, and he couldn't have been nicer, and he didn't want to fight. It was very disappointing.
Well, I also have to ask you one thing that I just saw today that you probably have as much an opinion on as anything. What are they doing with this new rule in NASCAR that they're going to put it's not in NASCAR, it's one of the series, the Camping World Series.
Oh, this is the caution light.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Well, I have said here's what happens in NASCAR. If you have a long green flag run of say 40 two fuel cycles, say 45 minutes, they throw a caution anyway. They throw a caution in after, about an hour. They throw a caution because they find debris. Debris is nothing but trash from France. And there's always mystery debris cautions. And I have said all along, why don't we just call them safety cautions and, either put a lap limit or a time limit on it. And because they do it anyway already. Because after they run, especially near the end of the race, after they run 100 laps, there's debris. There's going to be debris, either from the fans or falling off the cars. And as you get further into the race, there's more cars that are busted up and coming back out there, and shit's falling off of them. So I think I've been asking for this. This is not the way I would do it, but to me, this is the right direction. Now, I think it's 30 minutes, or I forgot how long it is in the Truck Series, but the Truck Series races aren't very long.
Right.
And they don't have many fuel stops because the records they aren't very long. I'm for anything that makes things more exciting. And right, because I'm for. So I think, and this will come. They'll work out an equation, somehow so they can do this in the Cup Series too. But here's part of the problem. There's way too many races are too long. The average race should be closer to 3 hours than 4 hours. People only got so much time. If I had to do three things to fix NASCAR, I'd have less races. I'd have 28 races instead of 36 in two exhibitions. I'd have less races. I'd have shorter races, and I would never go to Pocono ever again. But no. The other thing is I would make winning more important. Well, they've already done that. Right, they've made winning more important. That was always my third one, and I think we ought to have less races and we ought to have shorter races. Now, look, the 600, which I love the fact, it's on Memorial Day weekend. The Indy 5 in 1970, the Indy 500 is the biggest race in the world, right. And so NASCAR goes, well, we're going to have ours is the 600. See, that's 100 more. We're down here in North Carolina. Nobody's paying attention. We got a 600, motherfucker. Woo! Luckily, they didn't go to 1,000 or some damn thing. Well, it's like cutting it up to 11. It's exactly like that.
I had never thought of it like that, but that's clearly exactly what it is.
Oh, clear. Yeah.
If you've got some people that have never listened to Outlaw Country, tell them some records they're going to hear that you really like that it's kind of fun to play.
Well, just the other day, there was a band, and back during my day, there was a bunch of bands that we played with: the Blasters, Los Lobos, Dwight Yoakam. There was the Del Fuegos, the Del Lords. There was Jason and the Scorchers, and Dan Baird, the Georgia Satellites, and there was another band called the Long Riders. And I just talked to Sid the other day, Sid Griffin. They're going to have a box set out, and he's living over in England. But they had this and all those bands, and the Beef Farmers are in that group, and there's about 10 more I'm just forgetting. But all those bands had at least one song that should have been on the radio, but they got, froze out. So we're playing all of those bands. About every 10 years, there's kind of a cowpunk or country rock explosion. So there was one in the 60s, there was one in the 70s, there was one in the 80s. We're playing all those bands all the way back. We play Jimmy Rogers, we play all three Hanks. Jason and the Scorchers doing absolutely Sweet Marie. That makes Mojo feel good. Yes.
What do you think about George Jones?
Oh, George Jones sings so good, make your dick hard. That's how I think about George Jones. Me and Tepper, the rig rocker, the guy that runs Outlaw Country, we got to go to George Jones's house. His wife, I think she said, if y'all are in town, you come on by. And like 2 weeks later, we're here. We're just down the street.
Like Christmas vacation.
Yeah, completely. But he was super nice. We got to tour the house. We got to hang out. It was fantastic. That again, that's another highlight. That's being. I was in a movie. I was in a movie with Dennis Hopper. Somebody reminded me of this the other day. I'm in this Super Mario Brothers movie. So Dennis Hopper's in a movie with James Dean. So it's only 1 degree of separation between James Dean and motherfucking Mojo. Here's the problem with my movie acting. I can't act. I can only act. I can only be me. And they want you to do the same thing over and over. I like to do different shit.
Right. That should have drive them crazy.
Yeah, no, they didn't. Apparently, in that movie, Bob Hoskins, the guy, from Roger Rabbit. Yeah. He goes to me. He goes, dude, you're shooting your load way too early. He said don't even act till take 5. He says usually on this set it's around the one they're keeping's number 7 or 8. He says you need to do nothing until take 7. Because so in the rehearsal, I'm giving it everything I got. I'm fucking Larry Olivier. I'm fucking dogs of let loose the dogs of war. And he's like, whoa, slow down. And then that Great Balls of Fire, I'm used to being on stage. I was used to being on stage for an hour. I was used to talking 1 hour of 2 hours on stage.
Sure.
I got to talk twice in 3 months. I mean, I was losing my motherfucking mind. People, and we'd go out on, we stayed right downtown there in Memphis. We go, Beale Street was happening, and we'd go out about every night. And some people got an earful. They got an earful of mojo. They got the full mojosity.
Well, at that time in Memphis, that would have still been there when there were a lot of the originals around. I mean, there were. Carl Perkins was still around. I don't know if he was in Memphis, but you guys could have met with a lot of the.
Well, and through Jim Dickinson and Robert Gordon, I met most everybody in Memphis and got to see and do all the things, and I got to feel the ooze. I got to feel the Memphibian ooze.
Well, so just again to give people kind of a sense of this, give me a couple of good Memphis records that everybody needs to know about.
Well, I got to be friends with Roland James, who played guitar on.
Right.
He played guitar on a Whole Lot of Shakin',
yeah.
and he also is in Billy Lee Riley and his Little Green Men. Right. My girl is red hot. He's one of the ones saying "Doodly Squat." That's a record. He's part of the Doodly Squat Choir, and he ran Phillips Studio. There's the famous Sun Studio in '58, about a block and a half away. They built the Phillips Studio, and when I first went there, Stan Kessler, who wrote I Forgot to Remember to Forget, one of the early Elvis songs, he was at the front desk, and Roland was running the tape.
Oh,
and that was just And those guys had all kind of great stories, and they couldn't have been nicer. And it was just great to be there. Just great to be there, in Memphis. And the other thing, I don't know if you've read Robert Gordon Stack's book, but those records, Sam and Dave, Hold On, I'm Coming. I was listening to that in the car the other day. I mean, that drummer is just killing it. I mean, he is pounding that motherfucker. It's Al Jackson. Al Jackson is making Charlie Watts look like fucking 15 pussies. It's unbelievable.
All of those Stax records are amazing. The Otis Redding stuff and Linda Lindell and Carla Thomas. I mean, there's some really great stuff.
Oh, yeah, one of the ones I love. There was an Otis Carla thing, Tramp, which is kind of like a comedy thing, and I played the shit out of that when I was a kid. He's talking about squirrels and possums, and yeah, right. She wants to put on a mink coat, and he wants to put on overalls, right?
Well, man, Mojo, I appreciate the time. I just have enjoyed it so much. Is there any place they need to go on the World Wide Web to find you? Or?
Well, yeah, there's a MojoNixon.com, and you can download all the records at iTunes and at Amazon. And Mojo Nixon and the Toad Lickers will be playing at South by Southwest at the Continental Club on the Saturday of South by Southwest. Okay. It's free to get in. It starts at 9:30 in the morning. My advice is for everybody to start drinking now.
Okay, well, thank you, Mojo. This has been a great time.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, Dale.
Hope you survived that wild ride. This has been the Dale Wiley Show. Please visit DaleWileyShow.net. Please buy some books, throw some money. Copyright 2016.